right, part 2 of the podcast with Josh Parisian. We filmed about 2.5 hours last time. I'm not sure exactly where we left off. I think we left off somewhere around the Ultimate Fighter part of your career, maybe a little further, but we're going to backtrack a little bit just to catch the people up that maybe didn't listen to the entire episode 1. But right before we get into it, I want to shout out VetLife. VetLife is a 501c3 nonprofit company. It's a company of veterans for veterans. Every veteran faces difficulties when they transition from active duty back to civilian life, and VetLife is there to ease that transition. If you want to reach out to VetLife, you can do so through Instagram or Facebook, or check out their website at vetlifetoday.org. So Josh, help me recall, where did we actually leave the last episode at?
I think about the Ultimate Fighter, I think. I don't know if I really talked about that whole experience anyway, so we can talk about that.
Yeah, awesome. That's what I wanted to do. I feel like towards the end of our first episode, we kind of expedited the end because we were at like the 2.5 hour mark and we both kind of had a hard stop. But let's go ahead and rewind back to right before the Greg Ribello fight. Like, let's talk about what fight or victory were you just coming off at that point? You know, were you on a winning streak? What did your personal life look like? Like really, let's start that as like the inception point, and then we'll kind of build from there, because that was the massive call. That was the like, oh my God, this is our shot. This is where we get to break through to the next level. Let's pick it up from that point.
Yeah, no, I wasn't expecting a fight at all. I was at work that day. We were talking about the fight before?
Yeah, like what fight had you just won? What was your record at the time? Where were you? Like, just give me all the details. Make that the start of the story.
Okay. All right. I got my Tapology pulled up already. So I had just fought Marcus Maulding, and at that point I was 11-3. Actually, I was coming off a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait a minute. No, that's not right. That's my second contender fight. We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, so wind the clock back further. Because I was going to say,
brother.
You went to Africa before your first contender fight, right?
No, that was before my second contender fight.
Okay, yeah. So take us back.
So I lost that fight against Tony Lopez, which, you know, he was 49-25. I think he was high 40s at the time. He was an older gentleman. And I beat Zach Thumb. That was Brock Lesnar's training partner. I beat him in LFA when we went to Minnesota. Won that fight in the first round. I ended up emailing Mick Maynard, who's the matchmaker for the UFC. I'm like, hey, you know, what would you like to see out of me to try to get, you know, an opportunity? And he just said, like, you know, losing that Tony Lopez fight was not good. You know what I mean? Because he's an older guy, and like that's not a fight you want to lose. Even though he's 49-25, like they weren't happy about that. I'm like, oh, okay, that was a bummer. And you know, we were just training, getting ready, and for the next opportunity. But exactly 2 months later from winning that fight, I did get the call for a last-minute fight on Dana White's Contender Series against Greg Ribello, who he was 24-8 at the time, number one guy in the what was it? Northeast. And he was actually supposed to fight somebody else who could not fight because he had child support issues. Something to do with like unpaid child support, and Las Vegas, they don't like that.
So let's actually start right from that point. Take us back to that day. What does your life look like? What are you planning? What do you think is next? You know, you're coming off a victory, but it sounds like you just got disappointment in that email. You're coming off of, you know, thinking, man, I'm a little bit, you know, further away from the shot than I think. He basically said you took this loss to Tony Lopez, which, like, Tony Lopez, although he is not, you know, in the UFC, that dude is a fighter to the core. Yeah. I mean, he's got like 80-some professional fights now. He fights bare knuckle. That man will fight you in a backyard on a Tuesday at 3 a.m. Like, he doesn't care. That man's a fighter. If you make a big enough mistake, anyone can get caught by a guy like that. So take us back to that point. You just emailed Mick Maynard. You're a little bit disappointed. What were you kind of thinking was next? And then when you get that call, do you remember the day? Do you remember where you were? Do you remember all the details, et cetera? We'll build up from there.
Okay, yeah. No, for sure. Having that email back from Mick and just feeling like, oh, I got to do so much more. And, you know, when I feel like I've already done so much and I'm already, you know, I'm ready to be there. And so that was...
What was your record at the time, too?
11-3.
Oh, you were 11-3 there.
Wait, no, you're wrong. I'm wrong, because I said 11-3 earlier, but I think that was later in my career. I was I was 6-2.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're 6-2.
6-2, yeah. And there's not as many heavyweights, so it's a little bit easier to get in to the UFC as a heavyweight if you have somewhat of a decent record. So I was bummed about that, but I was just at work, and it was actually a really bad day. Just trying to get stuff done for I think it was a
Secure 24?
Circuit 24. Yep, doing IT and just trying to finish my stuff, and then getting the call. And I never talked to Mick, but I knew he was Australian, and I heard the Australian accent. I'm like, this is Mick Maynard. And he was super friendly, and he was just like, hey, you want to fight this guy? And it was, I forget how many days. It was like 2 days notice.
It was 3 or 4.
3, yeah, it was very few days. And he's like, I'm like, can I talk to my coach? I'm going, I don't know what to think of, because like, I should have just said yes, which eventually I tried to call you. You were in the Jurassic Park movie. You didn't answer. And because he wanted a response within the hour and couldn't get a hold of you. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And then I told you, and you're like, oh, you were super excited about it. So you were glad we took it. And let's see, what else about that? Yeah, so I was just
walk us through that. And the next day, we had to fly out, wasn't it? Wasn't it the next morning?
Yeah, the next morning. He wanted to fly me out that night. And I'm like, can I go out in the morning? He said, yes, we can do that. So I got all my stuff, made sure I got the time off of work and all that. And then we left and went out there and was actually really low pressure. I mean, I'm stepping in last minute notice against a dude who's the number 1 in the Northeast, and he was a really tough guy. And yeah, I remember, us working in the hotel and doing we did something we were talking about recently where
we were just talking about your dynamic movement for that fight. We were talking about the fact that like he's real planted and stationary and kind of like trods forward. I mean, he's a great striker, but very fundamental. And we were doing a lot of those like in and outs, dips, spinning attacks. And I was like he's not going to have an answer for these problems that you're going to present. And it's not what he's expecting. And it was almost like what we did in that hotel lobby was the way you fought him.
Identical to how it happened, yeah.
And you blew him out of the water. I mean, like, I don't think he landed 3 punches on you in that fight.
Yeah, it was like a one little like go, and that was it. And I kept throwing spinning back kicks, but is actually the reason I was throwing that was because I expected him to pressure me, just wait for the opportunity to get on the inside. So every combo, I'm like, throw something hard right down the center, just so he doesn't come in, or if he does come in, he meets that kick. And many of them didn't land very hard because he never came forward. And then at that point, instead of going to the kick, I decided to go up top with the spinning back fist and knocked him out. And he was against the cage, so he couldn't back up at that point. So that was a good fight IQ by my part on that part, or at that during that fight.
So let's talk about the fact that for the people that don't know, UFC Contender is a show where you go in and you're basically, contending for a spot at getting a UFC contract. And the premise of the show is kind of, we're taking top prospects, we're going to allow them to fight each other, and if you win, you have a chance of getting signed. And if you win in impressive fashion with like a big finish or a submission or a knockout, like you have a high probability of getting signed because that's why you're there in the first place. You're fighting a dude with 32 professional fights who had multiple pro titles, who had been on Contender once before, I believe. Yep. I think he had actually, he fought.
He won that fight.
Exactly. So he won a fight but didn't get signed. But it's like, okay, he's already won once on Contender. They're bringing him back. You're stepping up on 4 days' notice, and you have a spinning back fist knockout and beautiful performance. Go through, like, did you think you had it in the bag at that point? You're getting signed, all the emotions, just everything you can remember from that day, or from that experience, and then talk about, like, when Dana's reading out the contracts and stuff, and then we'll keep building the story from there.
Okay, yeah, they take us all back in the room to hear the reading of what his decision is.
Well, first of all, when you win the fight, what's going through your head, bro? You got to tell you can't skip that.
Oh, okay.
You just knocked out Greg Rebello in front of all these people. Where that was unbelievable. It was in a fashion where I remember losing my mind cage side, like, oh my God, he's in. That was he finished him, didn't even get touched, right? So go through like when you had finished him. Did you think you had done enough? What were you feeling? What were you experiencing? And then we'll build.
It was like the surge of emotion after, like, on one hand, winning a fight that was going to be a tough fight, and not really sure how this is going to play out, and it being so dominant. Like I had a lot of energy there, and then also when I hit him, I didn't know he was like completely out. So like I'm like my adrenaline just shoots up, and I'm like, let's go, let's finish, and then it's over. And I'm just sitting with all this adrenaline and without hitting anybody. You know what I mean? I'm just like you know what I mean? Because I think that I'm gonna have to get on top and keep beating on him. But so yeah, it was a huge rush there, and like I'm like, man, what a awesome! It felt so good to go out there in this last minute opportunity and win in a dominant fashion. I was sure I was getting a contract. I was just certain of it. And then we go in the back, and then I'm just waiting to hear that congratulations, come back here. You know what I mean? You're in. And then he comes to me, and he had nothing but good things to say. But he's like, "What we're gonna do instead of signing you right to the UFC is we're gonna put you on another show, a reality show, The Ultimate Fighter, where people also compete to get on into the UFC." So even though I still have the only knockout by spinning back fist by a heavyweight in, the UFC, Ultimate Fighter, Contender Series, any of them, still the first and only. Did it in the first round, did it dominantly, and now I have to do another thing to get in, which is like even harder to do that to get in than it is to just like cut me loose, let me go back out in the wild here and fight local people and then try to get signed that way. You know what I mean? So not only did I not get my opportunity, it made it harder for me to get in, which is like such a strange reward for doing exactly what you asked of me. You know what I mean? So, but then, Dana called you and I back in the room there with him and all his big people back there, and was like, hey, I know you're probably disappointed, because I showed visual disappointment on the camera when that was read to me, because I'm like, man, I thought this is it. I thought we were in. And then he's like, hey, I know you're disappointed, but I'm going to tell you that this is going to be better for you. I'm going to make more money off of this. You're going to make more money off of this. It's going to be a win-win. Everything's good. And, my first time, I'm just having a private conversation with Dana. I'm like, oh, okay. It sounds good. I didn't even turn around. I couldn't find the door to get out. Like the door's over there. I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you. But, I even at that point, I'm staying positive. I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is a good opportunity. We're going to go on the show. We're going to win the show. And then, I'm the next Ultimate Fighter for season 28. And then maybe it'll propel my career. More people will see me and stuff like that. And I'll have get a following and try to be positive about it. Then we went on the show, and then
first of all, let's preface this just in case anyone didn't listen to the first episode. We had gone to the Ultimate Fighter tryouts too, and I thought you looked fantastic there. I thought you looked great in the tryouts, and we didn't get in initially. Remember that?
Yep.
So it's like we waited on that. We didn't get the offer. Now you're going in for the show that you tried out for, right? You had a teammate, Amanda Bobby Cooper. She had already gone on the Ultimate Fighter. So we had kind of seen someone go through that experience, and she did extremely well. She became a finalist. She fought Tatiana Suarez, who in my opinion is going to become world champion. So when you were leading up to that experience, what was that like emotionally, mentally, on your relationship, on your life, on your job? Because now all of a sudden it's like, for the people that don't know, explain all the dynamics of The Ultimate Fighter, because it is one of the most bizarre reality show experiences I think that you can go through for the people that don't really understand it. They think, oh, you just fly out there and hang out in Vegas a little bit and, compete, and whoever wins, wins. No, they have like an extremely strict set of rules, and they basically isolate you from family and team and communication, and it's a brutal experience in a lot of ways. So really break down that part of your life, because I feel like it's a unique chapter that so few people could ever understand what you went through in that.
Right. Actually, I'm glad you said that, because I completely forgot about how that's what we did after the LFA fight. We went, did the tryouts, and then I found out I was an alternate when I thought that – so we went out there. They kept us there for another week. We did everything, got through every single stage of it. They kept me. And right at the end, they're like, you're going to be an alternate. So at that point, yeah, I'm like, what do I have now? Went to the Ultimate Fighter, didn't get on there, and now I'm just waiting around for I don't know.
You got the email from Mick that says, "Hey, yeah, you're close, but you need more." We went to the Ultimate Fighter, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, you're close, but you need more." You're an
Yeah.
alternate. You
Yeah.
went to Contender, you fucking spinning
Yeah.
back fist, knock. Hey, you're close, but you need more. I mean, it's honestly reminiscent of your story, bro. It's just every time there's an obstacle, life just forces you to get through one more before it allows you to get to the next level.
Yeah.
So keep building. We really describe the Ultimate Fighter experience and like
Okay.
what that was like.
Okay, so yep, I fly out there. Oh, also my work was awesome. Secure 24. They let me still be an employee there, but they let me because I'm leaving for 2 months, right, to do the show. It's like 5-6 weeks. So they were cool about that. They said I had my job when I came back, so felt good about that. Got on. So I flew there, and they put us in Palace Station for a week. They didn't have the coaches yet, so I'm on the. We're gonna do the show, but we can't go into the house and do anything until they find coaches because they're still negotiating. And during this week of being in Palace Station, we can't see each other. They don't want us to know who else is on the show because we still have our phones. They don't want us to tell anybody who's going to be on the show. It's supposed to be a secret.
Well, explain that why too, because they cut all your communication to your relationships, to your family, to your teammates, to your coaches. Like, because you're the thing, most people don't understand these dynamics. Once you go in that house, you have no communication with the outside world, right? Isn't
Right.
that the
Yeah, exactly. Well, at this point, we still have communication, and that's why they don't want us to see each other. So if we wanted to leave our room for any reason, well, the only reason we could leave our room is go to the gym that's in the hotel. But they couldn't have two people at the same time in the gym because they didn't want us to see anybody text, let somebody know who's on the show. It's supposed to be a secret. So that was a tough thing for be there for 7 days, and it was cool because free room service and you can watch all the movies you want and stuff like that. That was cool, but you're in a hotel room, not going outside, not being able to be in the sun or anything for a week straight. That was not a fun experience. But and another thing that happened is I actually thought I was going to get removed from the show because the first workout that I had, I was doing med ball slams, and I got such a tweak in my neck or something pulled in my neck that like they sent out a massage person and had a bunch of people come out and try to fix me and brought me stuff, and I was able to get my neck back to good by the time the show started. But that was scary. I was like, man, I did all this and now I hurt my neck just doing something dumb at the hotel. You know what I mean? Maybe it wasn't good enough workout or good enough warm up, or maybe I was still stiff from the plane or whatever. But that was brutal. But fixed that, and then they found the coaches, was Kelvin Gaslam and Robert Whitaker. And then, we go to the house. We get on. Actually, they take us to the gym first, I believe, and then we get sorted into our teams. And it's just, actually, before that, we have to do a tryout kind of there, where we're sparring and we're grappling and we're doing workouts and stuff like that, so they can kind of see what they're working with to see who they want on their team. And then we got picked, and then I got on Kelvin Gaslam's team. We went to the house, and then we got our phones removed, like we talked about earlier, so we can't, no communication. There's no internet, there's no TV, there's no radio. You can't listen to music because they don't even want you to have something stuck in your head and you go to sing it or hum it, and they have to remove that clip. They don't want that because it's like copyright, and if anything happens, they don't want that to be in there. And there's cameras all through the house. It's a mansion. This is actually the mansion that Conor McGregor stayed in while he was getting ready for the Aldo fight. It was cameras everywhere. We had to wear a microphone. It was attached to our necklace. So we're all wearing necklaces, but it's actually a microphone. Camera pointing at your bed. The only place there wasn't a camera, and they will only do this if there's women on there, because it was 8 men and 8 women in the house. There's no camera in the bathroom, but there is a microphone. Yeah, so at all times there's 16 people in the back listening. So you can't even take a shit without somebody listening to you. You know what I mean? 16 people listening to you. You can't say anything under your breath. You're like, oh, I hope nobody heard that. And 16 people heard that. You know what I mean? Everybody hears exactly what you're saying and what you're doing and watching you sleep and everything. And it's a really high stress situation. And I think some people handle it better than others. And And the company that does the filming for that, they also do like Survivor and The Bachelor and stuff like that. And they said that those ones they have to create drama. But The Ultimate Fighter is the only show where drama just happens because fighters are just dramatic. And every day there's a list on the counter with our names, and we put what we would like. And the next day they'll bring it to us, which is cool. Like we can put pretty much anything on there within reason, and they'll bring it to us. But if it's alcohol, they will bring it immediately. They'll send somebody out to get it immediately because they do want you to drink, and they want you to act a fool, and they want to video it. And there's always that stress of like, you hear about reality TV shows when you're doing it and you're worried about how they're going to spin something because, you might not get all the context of a situation, and they're cutting things and they're putting things in different positions to make something seem like it was something or was not something. Or so it was, when you're first there, you're worried about like, oh, I don't want to say something that they could paint me in some sort of light, and you get worried about that. And that was, that's tough. And we were training twice a day. We trained at other times, when our opponents when Team Whitaker was there, they would leave, we would go, and we do that twice a day. And it's a weird thing that you're living with the people you're going to fight. I'm eating breakfast next to the dude that I'm going to get in a fist fight tonight. You know what I mean? Like that's a real thing. It's a wild situation. And my first fight that I had on there was against Michel Batista. He took, I think he took second or third place at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. He beat Daniel Cormier in wrestling. He's a phenomenal wrestler, and that was my draw. And then that was just a fight that I lost it, and I think it was only 2 rounds. It went to the second round, and I got a scar. You can see it under there. I could slide my tongue through it, all the way through it, because my teeth went through my lip there. Or it got busted open, and I had to go get stitches and stuff like that. And that was just like a bummer to like lose your first fight in there, and now I can't just go home. Now I got to stay here and like just be there in my defeat, and still try to be happy for everybody else and work and get that training in and stuff like that. And it's you haven't talked to anybody, and you're just with these people, and I don't know. It's like, it's really hard to understand, I guess, but like, it's a tough situation to live in for 5-6 weeks to do that. So I lost that fight. And then, after the Contender Series, after the Ultimate Fighter, we get back into it. We take some more fights. Let's see.
Hold on. One last part so we don't skip over this.
Sure.
Were there any really memorable negative or positive experience in the Ultimate Fighter house that you want to like capture in this moment in time to remember forever? Like, because I don't think people could ever imagine what it's like to like, your entire world is shaken up to a level, and then you're isolated. Like, you're shaken up. You have all of your normal comforts, all of your normal people, all your normal processes. They're all gone. You're living in like an alternate universe for this period of time. And like you said, you had to face a defeat and then be alone in that defeat, and then have to stay in that home in that defeat. And, like, you're kind of just pushed off to the side. You're not really relevant anymore unless you do dumb things or anything like that where they might throw you on the show. But do you have any, like, really profound memories of even friendships or connections that were made, positive experiences or negative experiences during that time?
I mean, like, Ben Sisoli became one of my best friends, and he's from New Zealand. And he's an awesome guy, and we connected a lot, and we realized like how much we're alike and stuff, and that was cool. And then I ended up cornering him for his Contender fight that he had after that, and he got signed to the UFC and stuff like that. Ben was awesome, and let's see, what other situation. Some funny stuff happened. Like, actually, one thing that was cool is like, we're just looking for anything to have fun. You know what I mean? Because we're stuck in this house, and I put on my list, I want a remote control boat. I want to play with my RC boat out in the pool. And then other people they saw me playing with it, and they put it on their list. So we're having RC boat races in the backyard. It's just so funny as grown men just looking for anything to have fun. And I remember just some funny stuff of, kind of an interesting fact about the show is out of all the seasons they've had, we were on season 28, but they also had like the the Brazilian ones, and so there was over 30 of them that had. And we spent the most amount on food than any other one ever. We went over the budget like 40 grand. It was crazy. They're like, this is insane. We were also the cleanest. He's like, out of all the seasons, you guys ate the most food. We were the cleanest house, which is kind of an interesting fun fact. The heavyweights and the.
Well, I'm not shocked that the heavyweights had the biggest meal ticket out of all the shows. A lot of times, like the bantamweights aren't going to be able to compete with that, or featherweights or lightweights.
Yeah,
You guys.
But they had other heavyweight, like the Kimbo Slice, and when he was on there, those heavyweights, and there's been other seasons of heavyweights, but like we just by a landslide, we ate more food than they did.
That's hilarious. Was the dynamic difficult having 8 men and 8 women in a house? Because a lot of the people came in with relationships. Like that's an interesting stress. I mean, obviously, I dated a girl that went through The Ultimate Fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, imagine if it was your girlfriend who went off to live in a house for 5 to 6 weeks with 8 male strangers and 7 female strangers, and you can't speak to her at all, you can't see her, you can't interact with her, nothing. You were that guy. Was that dynamic? Did you see any, did that create problems? Was the show trying to push people into drama in that? Were they trying to insinuate things? Did you see behavior that might have been like, oh, this is
Yeah, I'm not gonna drop names.
You don't have to say names, but
there were 2 guys in the hot tub, and I know one of them was in a relationship, and they were trying to get the 2 other girls in the hot tub to kiss, and like not until you guys kiss, and then they were, I don't know if they were drinking or what, but they started kissing in the hot tub, the 2 guys. And then afterwards, I don't know if they realized, but somebody's filming the whole thing. And the guy's like, you can't release this, please. And it was funny for the rest of the time, every time that Gary, like the big producer, come out, he's like, hey man, I really can't let that get out. I can't have that be on TV. He's like, man, we'll do our best, but I don't do the editing. And he was just like so stressed for the rest of the time.
I mean, that is hilarious.
It was super funny.
But I mean, obviously that's done intentionally, right? You're trying to create any avenue for drama and stress, and that's what people love to see in this culture. They want to see problems, they want to see gossip, they want to see, ooh, is this person going to do that? Like that's what sells the show.
Yeah, like one of the coaches that was with us was like, he was just getting so drunk and come over the house and like puking and being emotional and stuff like that, and like the only not like Kelvin, it was just like one of his team members, and like we really liked him, and like we didn't want to him to be painted in any light on TV, so like we just didn't address it at all. We just ignored it, and we never talked about it, because if you don't give something context, they can't just put it in, right? So that stuff never got in there because we just ignore it, not happening. You know what I mean? So we found the little tricks to try to not have them put stuff on there. And I told you the joke earlier where the sponsor was Reebok, so anytime somebody said something that they didn't want heard, or you know what I mean, or shown, they're like Nike, 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 Nike. Just everybody starts chanting Nike, so that they can't show it because it's a show sponsored by Reebok.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
Was there some really good bonding between the people when you take 16 strangers from all different walks of life, and although you have the commonality of fighting and you're all stuck together in this mansion in Vegas and you're all under the same stresses and pressures and you are competing against each other, but there probably is some type of camaraderie or brotherhood. Did you feel like you made a bond with a lot of those people that you would still have to this day?
I mean, Ben, I would still say is my best friend, one of my best friends, and I don't even ever see him. He's in Australia right now, or New Zealand, or wherever. I don't even know where he's at. You know what I mean? But that's how guys are, though. We're like, oh, I haven't talked to that guy in years. Best friend. But there were some other guys that didn't speak great English, like Juan, and Juan spoke some, and then the guy that I fought didn't really speak any English, and that was, it was tough to communicate with him. But yeah, no, I like, I like to see these guys succeed and stuff like that. And some of the girls, like, the girl that just beat Molly, she was on the show with me. Juliana, I forget her last name, but she just fought Molly. So it was, it's cool to see, those people having success, and, it's interesting to see the people that just gave up after like some people just quit. Like they didn't win the show, they just quit and they don't fight anymore. That was kind of wild to see, to just build this whole career up. So it's weird how the show affected people differently. And it's cool because we all got on our team got all matching tattoos, which is like, I mean, that's a camaraderie thing. Like we'll remember that all of us have the same tattoo somewhere on our body, and so we're like joined that way. It's kind of a cool thing.
Having gone through it, if you could go back in time and you had the option to go to the Ultimate Fighter again or avoid that and get straight in, let's say, Dana, you had a switch that you could flip, either getting signed straight to the UFC or having to go through Contender, through Ultimate Fighter. Would you do it again?
I would. I will say that I would not do it again, especially in this point in my life with a kid and all that stuff. But I would even if I didn't have Eva, I would not do it. But I would say if I had to do it, I would do it much better. Just having some experience and knowing what I know now and how I could have more fun and less stress and just enjoy the process more. I think that I would do it again.
So let's move forward now. So you come back, Secure 24 maintained what they committed to, and that your job was still available for you. You come back. What type of toll did that take on a relationship? What does that do for your mental state? Did you come back stronger from the experience? Did you come back in a state of like having to put all the pieces back together? And then where did you set your aim and then slowly build up to like what was next? What was the next fight that we took, et cetera? So was the work still there? Was your mental state in a good or bad position? Were you able to integrate right back into training? Did your relationship take a hit, et cetera?
Yeah, so let me think. Here. Yeah, so when I got back from the Ultimate Fighter, in my mind I was upset about it, but I was not deterred from still trying to get in. And at that point, I told Secure 24 that I wanted to be done. Like I wanted to quit, and I was gonna really make a push to take more fights and get signed. And that was tough in my relationship, like you said, with my ex, who she took on all the bills, and then it got to a point where like she's upset. She's like, how I understand, but like how long are we gonna do this for before something's got to give here, because I'm paying for everything, and we thought you're gonna be in the UFC, but you're not. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no, I thought that too. You know what I mean? And I've just been pushing forward, and I've been trying, and it's not my lack of trying. You know what I mean? Like, let's see, after my fight, I lost my first fight after getting out of the house. That was a tough one. But after that, we went one.
What
two.
fight was that?
That was Brett Martin. That was my really tough one.
We honestly should go back through that, and then I think you went on a long winning streak after that. I feel like that's a pivotal point, because you get off the Ultimate Fighter. Now you have this new pressure, bro, because now you come back to Michigan and you're the guy that just won by.
I was on TV. I mean, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So let's go through that period. So you just fought on Contender. You pull this amazing knockout. You get disappointed. You go to the Ultimate Fighter house. You lose to a guy who's an Olympic medalist in wrestling. And the crazy thing about that fight, for the people that go and watch it, is you got up off the ground like so many times.
Yeah, it's like 13 times in 2 rounds. I got up over and over against a Olympian. You know what I mean? So in my head, I'm like, I'm fighting Brett next, who's a wrestler, and I was just like, honestly, just way too overconfident for that fight, and just had no lack of urgency. And my lack of urgency got me caught in a submission early in the fight. Got taken down, and that was a tough one, because like that was a fight that I was just like so confident. I'm like, there is no way this guy beats me, and then he beats me in a minute. You know what I mean? So that's like that was a hard one to tough pill to swallow in that one, especially because now I've quit my job. I lost my fight in the house. But I quit my job, and I'm like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to make a run for it, lose my first fight. Now I'm jobless, and I'm on a loss. So yeah, we just, obviously I never quit. I never stopped. So we kept pushing forward, and then we
Let's talk about that period because I feel like that led to a major growth. Because I remember your trajectory after that, and you went on like a killing streak. You started just crushing. I think you went like on a 3, 4, 5 fight winning streak or something crazy. I remember you were
Six
just
fights.
6 fight winning streak. So here is a pivotal moment in your story, man. Because most people break when the hardship gets too much. You get on Contender and you get a disappointment. You get on the Ultimate Fighter, you take a loss. You come back home, and I remember that Brett fight. I remember saying actually to Brian right before the fight, I said, in a weird way, the thing I'm most frightened about is Josh just thinks this guy sucks. Like, he's just completely overlooking him. And, like, usually the worst performances of people's career is when they think someone's dog shit.
100%. Every fight I've lost, where I underestimated them, I get either I lose or I get beat up.
Yeah, exactly. Or you underperform terribly.
Yeah.
You rise to the occasion when people are extremely dangerous. You always have.
If I'm nervous, then I'm more likely going to have a better performance. Yeah,
for real. So you were at the point where when you first came back from the house, you had said that like you were in a situation in life like, do I keep doing this? It hasn't worked out yet. Is it going to work out? Am I going to get there? A lot of people break at that. You mentioned it. You alluded to it that a lot of the people when they lost on the Ultimate Fighter, that was it. They're like, all right, I had my shot. I didn't make it. Boom. You come back home. You take on this fight that, like, really, I mean, in many ways, everyone thought you were going to win. You're the guy that on TV. You're the guy that just won on Contender. You come back, you get beat by Brett. What is that period of your life like? How do you keep the pieces together? What were the things that kept you moving forward, man? Like, why at that point do you not say, you know what, I tried, I made my best run, I'm just not cut out to make it. I'm never going to get signed to the UFC. I'm going to go. You got pressure from your relationship coming in like, hey, it might be time. Like, I can't keep doing that. Like, I can't take on all the responsibility. What keeps you going? What has you dial in? And then what led to the insane streak of positivity after so much difficulty? You know what I mean? And then we'll go through those wins. Can you remember that period of life? Take yourself back to right after Brett beats you. What are you going through? How do you get through it, bro?
Yeah, no, that was an emotional time for me. I remember just crying in the car on the way home, and just, I have a process when I lose, and I don't know why I do this, but I'm like, when I lose, I'm done. I quit. I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? And that lasts for about 2 days. You know what I mean? It doesn't last very long. And there's just something about fighting and me. I don't know if it's the fighting or if it's something with me, but I just can't quit. Winning, losing, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I have to keep doing it. I have to. And then coming off a loss is just like it. The nice thing about losing, if there was any good thing about losing, is the ability to really diagnose, like, what was the problem here? What were the things that I'm not doing that I should be doing, or things that I'm doing that I shouldn't be. And going back to the drawing board with it, and I've always excelled after losses, because I've always jumped forward, because I'm the kind of person that I don't just like, well, whatever, you know what I mean? We lost, we'll get her again, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like that. I'm like, something happened. What are we gonna do better to not make that happen again? And also, like, I like fighting because I like the goals that I set for myself, and having a fight and having an end goal, and having something to work towards, and something that I really enjoy fighting. And that's why I'm like, man, even after losses, and I say I'm done, I'm going to do this, and, like, I just don't know if I'll ever quit. I don't know if I'll just do this until I, you know what I mean, until I physically can't. And another thing is, like, I have IT background a little bit now that I've done that job and stuff like that, but, like, and I've done construction. I know some stuff, but, like, as far as a profession, like, I've done this for 13 years. Like, I am a professional. I'm an expert at it, right? So this is how I'm going to make money. This is the best way that I know how to make money. And even though I'm like, well, I can go do this, because after I lose, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to do this thing and all that, and I'm going to I'm going to find another way to make money and provide and stuff like that. And it's just like, I'm just never very motivated to do it. even though I'm like I should do this, and nothing motivates me like fighting does. So yeah, I'm so after that fight, I was just super motivated and super ready to after my 2 days of poor me and I'm gonna do something else in my process. I'm like, we got to get better and we got to do. And I think I know deep down my potential, and I've never been able to really show how good of a fighter I am in a cage fight. And I think that like I'm hunting for that performance, just to be the person out there that I am in here. And if I could just show anything of the like that, people would know like this is the guy, because I'm really talented, I'm really skilled, and so that's what I'm looking for.
So you go through that period, your resiliency and spirit just refuses to let you quit. The poor me pity party, rocks you for a couple days, but then you get back on the horse. Then let's start to talk about the build up, because this next build up leads to the contender fight that gets you signed, which leads to Josh Parisian is a UFC athlete, despite all odds trying to keep the door closed. So what was the first fight we took back?
It was Alejandro Santiago.
That was at the Soaring Eagle Casino, wasn't it?
Yep. Won that one first round. My next one was
you TKO'd Santiago in the first round, right?
Yep. Punches. Next one was Victor Jones, who I'm trying to punch him in the chin the entire fight, but he just puts his chin so high in the air, and I'm trying to punch where his chin should be, so I keep punching him in the throat. And he's stopping the fight. He's getting pissed. He's like, this guy's punching him in the throat, which is a completely legal shot. But like, I'm not really intentionally I'm trying to hit you in the chin, but you're like, you got your chin up, bro. I'm like, I'm trying to hit you in the chin. And then by the last time I hit him in the throat, it's like, he just waves. He's like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore.
That was one of the most comical stoppages ever. And he fought Tim Farr back in the day. You remember that?
Yeah.
Tim Farr Von Flew choked him. But yeah, I remember that. Him just being like, he's hitting me in the throat. And the ref's like, tuck your chin. You're like, bro, I'm sorry. I'm trying to punch you in the face. Like, 100%.
Yeah. I remember like punching him and be like, freaking out. I'm like looking around at people, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to do this. And people are like, go after him, because the ref didn't stop it. He's just like having getting pissed off and punching him in the throat. That was funny.
So you beat Santiago, you beat Victor.
Yeah, first round, then I fight Charles Brown.
That was at the Motor City Casino.
Yep. First round, punches.
And Dingo was a big man. I mean, that dude is a mammoth of a human being. And I remember, like, he had a lot of dangerous aspects about him for that fight, but you just overwhelmed him with a barrage combination. I think you finished him in the first.
First round, yep.
Yeah, so, you finished 3 people in a row in the first round.
Yep. And then we get our opportunity to fight Matunga Jakasa in Africa.
So you got to go into this one in big detail. You get the call from Danny. We get an offer to go to Senegal in Africa. We're going to fly over to Paris. We're going to stay there. We're going to fly then to Africa, and you're going to fight in this tournament for Aries, a show that we didn't know much about. But let's really talk about that experience, because that was an incredible time over there in Africa.
It was the first one they had. So the person that was running it was the coach, is the coach of a bunch of top guys.
Cyril Gahn. And he used to be Francis Ngannou's coach. He was the guy that pulled Francis in France and built him all the way up, I think, until like being at one of the top contenders, and then Francis went a different direction. But he was starting Aries, right?
Yeah, he started that, and he had some investors and stuff like that. And there was a lot of money into it. It was a big show. And yep, we go to Africa for this fight, and it was a crazy experience being over there. And
we met the guys from Lithuania, made a good friendship with those dudes.
Yeah, I know, and it's so funny because like Lithuania is such a small country that they were playing a prank on us. I forget what it was. He was like throwing rocks out of his window, and I was like looking around trying to figure out where it was coming from. And it's such a small country that we made their news of him throwing rocks at me.
I remember his YouTube clip. Because you and I would like open the door and we'd look around. There was just nobody there, and they were on like the level above us, and they were throwing rocks down at our door. So we kept being like, "Who that?" And then we saw them. They start cracking. I'm like, we got the Americans. I remember they were good dudes, man. Loranis and Alfredo.
Yeah,
man. Shout out to the boys. Yeah. Shout out to the boys.
I still talk to him.
Yeah, I still talk to him from time to time too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he's doing really well over in Lithuania. His gym's gotten bigger. Loranis was fighting on some big promotion. I forget what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they it seems like they're doing really well over there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So met those guys, met some cool people, and Africa was you know, it was interesting because, and you're always like this. You're just like, all right, let's go for a walk, and so we're walking through Africa, and the people at the hotel are like, where are you going? Like, oh, we're going for a walk. They're like, you can't do that. You can't just quit. They're like, well, we're going, and even the people there are stopping because there aren't many white people there, and people on the street are stopping and turning and looking at us like what a crazy thing that about us, walking through there, and it was kind of a sad experience because like they were, poverty was high there, and people were not begging for money; they were begging for clean water. And it's like that was like it's such a sad thing when people just like, hey, I just want clean water to drink, and they don't have it. And then we took a bunch of water, loaded our backpacks up at the hotel, and then we walked around and started handing out water to people who needed water, and that felt good. That was a good
I
thing
remember
to
like
do.
when we walked into town with the Lithuanian crew and we got pizza. As soon as we were done eating, we boxed all of our pizza and we just gave it to the first group of kids that came up to us. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And to them, the little kid was like speechless. Like he couldn't believe that we just like handed him the pizza. You know what I mean? Like, this is for me. You know what I mean? And it's the people are so impoverished that type of gesture to them is like, so you can see how much it moves them emotionally. Like that
Right.
guy that was by the bushes that we gave water to that looked like he was dying of thirst on the side of the road. Like, that is his existence.
Yeah.
That's how he lives. And to us, it's like, dude, we get the waters for free and we can get as many as we want. And like, all it takes is us to walk over here and say, here you go, bro. Like,
And that meant the world to him. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I know. I try to think about it too much because it made me sad. It made me cry. You know what I mean? Because it's just something that a very basic human need that somebody's just like begging for. And it's just terrible that that's a situation.
A lot of people in America that think America is horrible, which I understand pushing to make things better and try to make, a more perfect union. It's like if you traveled, if you saw the rural parts of China that I've seen, if you've seen Africa, if you've seen the favelas in Brazil, you really have it better than you realize because like we witnessed people. That man was dying of a lack of water. And you know what the crazy thing is? He's standing right next to the ocean.
Yeah. Can't drink the water.
Can't drink it. He's dying on the side of the road and he just needs clean water and no one's there to help
Yeah.
him.
And it was so hot there too. Over 100 degrees. It was so hot.
It was brutal. So let's
It's
talk about
Africa hot.
let's talk about the show. We actually met your opponent in the airport, and he's like this 6'6" or 6'7"
Oh, yeah.
literal giant named Matunga Jakasa. Okay, like what a perfect African terrifying name. He was a big dude, very athletic, looked for the knockout. I think he was 3-1 at the time.
Yeah. No, he's actually doing really good right now.
So he was legit, man, and he was a serious athlete. But there was this freak incident that happened with the show because the show was outdoors. Why don't you tell that story? Because we were this close to you not getting to fight.
Yeah, no, they had an outdoor show and they weren't even thinking about it, but the canvas was a vinyl, and as it was getting dark, the vinyl started getting dew. Is that what it was, just dew? Yeah. It was just super wet, and people are slipping around, and in between rounds, they're having people go out there and wipe it up with a towel. And fortunately for me, they still let me go out there, and it was so slippery. It was hard to, you can't plan for that. You know what I mean? So the way you have to walk is like very, you can't put too much weight on one foot because you'll slip. So you have to be very centered and stay balanced. You can't overstep. And
We had to
it was like an
change your
ice rink.
entire game plan.
Yeah.
Remember that? Like your game plan with that guy was going to be a lot of movement, dipping, feinting, changing levels, and trying to get him to the ground. We knew if we put him on his back, he was in big trouble. But it was like all of your motions. We had to go, okay, we can't do any of that. We're going to have to take super small, deliberate steps and work to back him up to the cage.
Yeah.
And it was great. I mean, because for the people that are maybe listening to this, you might think, oh, there's a little moisture in the ring. No. There was sitting water in the ring.
On vinyl, which is so slippery.
100%. It was a slip and slide that you had to fight this man on.
Yeah.
But you ended up taking him down. Then you mounted him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I tried to take him down 4 or 5 times, and he kept grabbing the cage. And eventually, I know, and you're losing your mind. You're like, ref, he's grabbing the cage.
I remember that
Yeah.
now. I was yelling at the ref.
Yeah, I know. You were losing your mind. And then I finally got him down. And at that point, when you get on top of somebody when it's that slippery, you're not going to get up, right? And it was over. And I just punched, elbowed, and then eventually TKO finish.
And then the entire show got canceled the fight
Yep.
after you.
Yeah.
The co-main event didn't get to go. The main event didn't go. These are people that were flown there from across the country to compete. The promotion had spent thousands of dollars to get them there, and the commission called the whole show after your fight.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I remember after the fight, I don't know if I ever told you this, and I think I did, where I'm walking through this building that the venue is, and I go through the wrong door, and I'm like, oh, shoot. And it's like completely black in here. And I turn around, and the door shuts, and it doesn't open that way. And the door on the other side doesn't open. And I'm in this compartment where nobody is around. I didn't see anybody up there. It's completely black. I can't see anything, nothing. It's like you shut your eyes. And I'm screaming. I'm stuck in this empty building where nobody's even in. They're on the first layer. I'm on like the top floor or whatever. I don't even know how I got up there. Why? Somebody told me somebody's looking for me for pictures or something, and I went to the wrong place. I'm screaming, dude. And I'm in there for 20 minutes, and no one comes. I'm like, I don't have my phone. I have nothing, dude. I'm like, I'm stuck here. What am I gonna do? That was really scary. And that was like immediately after the fight. So I win this fight, all these emotions. I get trapped in this room. I'm like, no one's going to find me. I was so scared. And somebody finally heard me and then opened the door. I'm like, oh, thank God. I didn't know I was going to get out of here.
Oh my God! Yeah, I remember you disappeared, and I was like, "Oh, he must probably just doing his media and stuff." But it would have been a manhunt for you very soon after that point because you're trapped in a container in Africa. Good luck, brother.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
So you win that fight. Does that put you on a 4-fight winning streak or a 3-fight? I don't remember what you were at that point.
Let's see.
You beat Santiago. You beat Victor. Was that your 3rd fight? You're on a 3-fight winning streak.
I'm on his. Was on 1, 2, 3. Yep, and then beating him made it 4.
Okay,
Then-
so you're on a 4-fight winning streak
Yep.
now. You just went to Africa. You beat this guy.
Yep.
It was a really good win for you. You come back. What was the thing that happened next?
Fought. Let's see, how much time is this? Oh, 1 month later, fought Marcus Maulding for WXC. And then,
So you're on a 5-fight winning
5,
streak now.
yep.
You're on fire.
yep,
Is that the call for Chad?
that's the. So I have another fight coming up against Lawrence Bonds. In that fight, what happened? Oh, the event canceled due to coronavirus, COVID. And then, and then I get the call to fight Chad Johnson, which, man, that was.
So take us back. Let's go to that point. What does life look like? What does work look like? You're back to you've rebuilt. You went on you lost 2 fights. You hit your bottom. You built all the way back up to 5-fight winning streak. You've gone international. You won in Africa. You're back home. Like things are going good now. Your record at the time is, what's your record when you got back right after
the
Marcus fight?
Marcus, I'm 11-3.
You're 11-3. So you've
Yep.
really built a solid record. What does your life look like at that point when you get that second contender call and it's like, this is the opportunity again, man. Like the door has been shut in your face a couple times,
Yeah.
but it's like, it's working out. I left Secure 24 with a purpose. Your relationship at the time with your ex, she rolled the dice on like, is it going to work out or not? You're on a 5-fight winning streak. You get the call again. Let's go to that period of your life.
At this point, her and I aren't together anymore. I'm with Jen at this point.
Where did the engagement happen? Because
Right when I got back from the Ultimate Fighter.
oh my God, my timeline was complete. But no, we used the fight announcement. Remember we said, hey, we got this huge fight offer with Contender. That was like the decoy.
Yeah, but there was no fight.
We made up a fight.
We made up a fight.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. Because I was going to say, I filmed the engagement.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, I thought, in my brain, I thought that was from the Contender fight. I didn't know which Contender fight that was. I thought like,
Yeah, no, yep. So so we
Got
made
it.
up a fight, got engaged with my ex. Things didn't work out there.
when did that happen? What part of the timeline in the Josh story, when? does that happen where you split from Kaylee and you're with Jen? I can't even place that on a timeline.
I'm not sure what fight it was. It was actually, let me see. Keep going to the wrong page here. It was after. It was after Santiago and before Victor Jones.
Got it. Okay, so you break up from that. So now all of a sudden you've won one fight back.
2, 3. I have 3 more fights.
So when we were in Africa, you were with Jen.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so you get on this winning streak. You're in a new relationship. There's so a lot has changed in your life. You're no longer working for Secure 24. You're building back up. You've had the shot at the big time, but now the pieces start to fall in line. So,
okay, yep. So it seems like things are falling in line, but during the Matunga fight is when I accidentally announced that I'm having a daughter. And
it does make sense now.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yep. We were, we didn't tell anybody yet, and we weren't sure how we're gonna say it, but I'm like, oh yeah, I'm having a daughter, and just like in my super post fight hype. But Jen was super. She's like, that was a good way to do it. You know what I mean? I didn't really want to do like any sort of gender reveal, so that was good. And then so I have the Marcus fight and I win that fight, and then so now COVID happens, and at this point, I'm actually pretty depressed because, like, I have a daughter on the way. I'm still not somebody who's bringing in any real money. You know what I mean? And then now COVID is here. And now, how long is this going to last? I have no idea. Now, no opportunities for me. So, just like being broke and not having a way to make money at this point because of the COVID. And that was actually really depressing for me. Was down, and it's funny because like the day that I got the Chad Johnson call was like probably one of the lowest days I've ever had. It's funny how that works.
What was the day that you got that call? Like, what timeline are we at now? Like, what was the actual date of your Chad Johnson fight?
The actual date
was that during 2020?
2020, yep. September 18th, 2020.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right before we skip to that, you saw me during 2020. So the gym had to obviously close down for a few weeks. We shut it down for like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Because that was the right thing to do. Nobody knew what was going on. We're all trying to figure out what the hell's happening. I'm living here because I'm terrified to get Stacy sick. I just lived in the dorm. I didn't go home. I was probably like a crazy person sitting in, when you saw me going through all that and I'm about to like open the gym back up against the governor's orders and stuff. Like, what did you think? I've never really asked that many people from like their perspective. Like, I lived through my experience of, all day, every day, studying every White House briefing, calling state reps, calling doctors, calling nurses. But like, all of a sudden I start challenging the narrative basically and saying like, I'm going to open the gym back up. Like our people are going to start training again. And, for lack of a better term, like, I'm not buying into this bullshit anymore. Yeah, there's a sickness. Yeah, people in poor health get wrecked by viruses. Yeah, there's all these things. But like, I started questioning, what did you see as an outside perspective of what 2020 looked like from what we went through here as a gym? And what was your personal life like, relationship, home life like during that period? Because that pandemic is a time that we have to capture in history. Like, one day we're going to tell our children about that moment in time.
Yeah. As far as you, like I was grateful that you were doing that because me, I'm rebellious in nature. So I'm like, the government tells me anything. I'm like, fuck you. You know what I mean? So the government's telling me to do this. I'm like, I'm rebellious anyway. So I was like grateful that you were that way. But I was also like, man, hoping to lose our gym and stuff like that because, all the threats and stuff like that. But then, when the police were like, they were not like, they were being cool about it, with you, and that, as far as I remember, and I was grateful for that, and then I felt a little more comfort about it. As far as COVID in general, like obviously it was depressing for me, not making money and stuff, and then Eva on the way and having a kid. I'm like, oh, I gotta support my kid and have a job. And then, but Jen and I relationship wasn't bad, and things were, and she's never once made me feel bad about anything. The only thing that she doesn't like is my process of, after the fight, being like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. You know what I mean? Because like she doesn't. She has a hard time with like people being saying emotional things. Like she's like very like if you say it, you meant it. But not. I'm kind of an emotional. Like sometimes I'm just like I'm done. I'm quit. I'm doing this. You know what I mean? And then she takes that as like, oh, okay, well, he's going to be done with this, and we're going to do this thing. But I think she's getting better. She's understanding that I'm very emotional after the fight and understands like the process of it and stuff like that. So she's just like, oh, okay.
So is she someone that just like I've seen her get very angry during the pandemic and lash out in a lot of ways. Is she a person that even when she's angry, what she's saying is exactly what she says and what she means? That's who she is?
Yeah, it is. It's like when she says something, because we don't really get many fights. So if she says something to me that she is upset about, I know that it's truly something that she's concerned about and she's thought about it for days before she brings it up, which is opposite of me because I'm just like, ugh, ugh, I'm mad about this. You know what I mean? And then, but we've obviously worked it out and gotten better. We went to therapy too, which is, man, couples therapy sounds like the most horrible thing ever, but it's amazing. I think it's made our relationship so much better, just having somebody to talk to and stuff like that, and because really it comes down to just like not being able to communicate, like, or not understanding what the other person's saying. Because I think a lot, her and I probably want the same things, but we don't know how to communicate efficiently or effectively and stuff like that. So having a third party was awesome. But
So you go through the pandemic and there's probably rough times and there's probably times where you're kind of getting by. And you said when I got the call for Contender, it was one of the lowest days of my life. Why is that? What was going on that day? Take me all the way back to that point in time. Like we're probably about 6 months in the pandemic at that point. What did your life look like? What did your mind look like? What was your mental state? What was the relationship? And then you get that call and then let's build from that. Why did you say it was one of the worst days of your life?
I feel some type of way about saying this on a podcast, but I wrote a note. I wrote it. I hate saying this, but I wrote a letter to my daughter to explain to her why I wasn't going to be there anymore because I was going to take my life that day. I was going to hang myself in the garage. It's just crazy because it's funny because I talk about my dad and why he probably took his life because he just felt he couldn't provide. I'm thinking that's so silly, but like, why would you do that? Like, things are gonna be fine, but now I'm in the same situation where I'm like, I can't provide for my kid, and I'm having a daughter, and and maybe she would be better if I wasn't here, so she could have somebody that could take care of her, and just not being in the right mind set. But yeah, that was probably one of the lowest points in my life, honestly, and then for the same day, an hour after I write that letter, I get the call that I got an opportunity again. Ugh.
You can't even write that shit for a movie. If you put that in a Hollywood movie, bro, people wouldn't believe it. They'd say that's too unrealistic. That's not how things happen. But that is how life often happens. And in a weird way, you were able to have a glimpse into the psychology of what your father had dealt with, about the pain and feeling of inadequacy as a man, feeling like we are not enough to provide for the people that care about us or that we're supposed to be like the protectors for, is an unbearable weight. I don't think there's any man, if he cares about his responsibilities, that can live in a way that he's not providing for the people that he loves, that can just survive. And I don't think you can do it. I think the weight of that will cripple any man's spirit. When you get that call, bro, that's like a sign from the universe or God or whatever you want to believe in. What was that like? What was that moment like? Let's talk about when you went to tell Jen, like, hey, I got another offer. Like, did she ever even hear about that letter? Did she?
I told her about it. She was it was a weird thing because I told her, like, I'm crying at this point. I'm like, man, we got this call, we got an opportunity, and I'm like, this is what was happening with me today, and then we all hugged and we were both just crying, and it's a really sad situation. I mean, it was happy and sad, and it was just a whirlwind of emotions. And
What was the source of the biggest part of the pain? Was it just because your daughter hadn't been born there yet, right?
no, not
So
yet.
you knew that she's coming, and you're looking at your life, and you're just like, I am not enough to be the father that this daughter deserves. Was that the weight?
It was just like, I don't know if it was just not just working so hard for something and not achieving it, and it's not happening for me yet. And then the COVID happens, and now it's ceased. It stopped completely. So I've gone so much time, and at this point I'm like, I actually feel like it's not going to happen. For the first time, I feel like I've worked so hard, and I have very few other skills to do anything, and this thing is not going to happen for me. And I thinking about it now, it doesn't. It seems, why would you do that? But like in that situation with COVID and the quarantine and not having any forward progression and all that in my life, and then knowing that I'm having a child, and it was just a whirlwind of. It was just tough.
I'll tell you what, that is a dark lesson, but an incredible wisdom for anyone listening to this podcast, that like you might think that you can never hit a bottom like that where you might become suicidal or stuff like that, but you're not yourself in those moments. You're not like the person that sits here today that evaluates what could happen in the future. You're in a deep, dark place that you can't really, logic might not even work to you at that point. You know what I mean? Like you might have loving friends, you might have a loving relationship. You have a daughter on the way, which is like something to be incredibly happy about on paper, but it's like you're in an emotional state that like that darkness grips a lot of people and just doesn't let go. It drowns them. You know what I mean? They lose the battle before you somehow got a miracle from the universe that pulled you back out. And it's like the old quote, and your life is the epitome of that quote, that it's always darkest before the dawn. It's like when you hit a point where you're truly about to break, the sun rises. The light, you get a glimmer of a ray of light pops back up. That phone rings. You get that call. So you tell Jen, it's this insane moment. You've truly hit a rock bottom. It's time to go back to contender. It's time to get another fight. And I remember when we got the Chad Johnson offer, we liked that fight. We were like, this is a big athletic guy, but like, he doesn't bring to the table what you do. You're more dangerous than them. You have better skill set than him. You can break this guy.
Yeah.
So let's start building up from there. You went from one of the darkest moments. You're like, I can't believe you had the courage to tell that, by the way, bro. Like,
it's tough because like when I think about it now, to not be in Eva's life, like it just seems so, I don't know, like selfish. Like how dare I try to remove myself from my daughter's life when, why would I take that from her? You know what I mean? It's hard to say that just because I as a rational minded person right now, it just seems so dumb and so horrible. But like in that time, it's just like, it's just the right mix of chemicals that told my brain that, like, you know what I mean? Like I should not be here anymore. And
you're a burden. You create more harm than good. You're not enhancing people's life. Like those thoughts can win. Like everybody has a demon in their brain that like if you have enough inadequacy and it whispers enough and you start to listen to it and you start to believe it, it can drown you. And it's like, so of course now when you look back, you're like, how did I get there? But it's like you're a better man from having gone through that. And to be able to speak about it will make you even stronger because then you can relate to people that have been in deep darknesses. I think the reason I can make the biggest impact on a lot of the people that I work with and that, the kids and the people I mentor, it's like, bro, I understand that moment. I understand being on the absolute edge of like, I'm killing myself because it's just not worth going on. It's just not worth it. I'm not getting to the light at the end of the tunnel. There's no, life won't be better. I'm not going to have the things that I desire or that I'm not going to make it an impact. The pain's never going to go away. You know what I mean? And like, so there's strength in being able to talk about those moments because in society, we don't normally, man. We suppress all that shit down, and like being able to discuss it more now, you can go back from a more rational mindset so that if you ever ended up in darkness again, you're more equipped. Because look, you can look back and say like, fuck, thank God I didn't take that final step.
Yeah.
Thank
Definitely.
God.
Since I've had Evo, I haven't had one single thought, not even close. I mean, I just feel like now that I've had her, like nothing seems bad enough to ever want to do anything like that. Like I don't care how bad my life is. I just want to be here for her, and she's like the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And it's funny because I used to think that people people had kids and they just trying to make the best of it. You know what I mean? They're just like, yeah, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, oh, okay. But like, man, it truly is the my greatest accomplishment. And it didn't really work very hard, you know what I mean, to make her. You know what I mean? It's not like I like fighting where I've done this work my ass off for 13 years, but like she's just she's amazing, and she's just like and it's amazing to watch her grow and be a part of her learning and watching her learn and stuff like that. It's just like, man, and I don't know if it's just like in my brain, like it's just like instinct to love this thing so much, and maybe it is, but it still feels like the greatest thing ever.
She's your reason to live that like can never be taken from you now. You have a safety net that you never had before. Before, Josh could fall down into the abysmal hole that's, forever. And like who knows how far you can fall until you finally just break. But it's like now you have almost a safety net that's like no matter how bad life gets, I still got my daughter.
Yeah.
And I can still fight for my daughter.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, she could hate me and I would still be like, you know what I mean? I'd still want to be here for you and do everything that I possibly can to make sure you have everything you need. And yeah.
That's incredible, man. So you get that call, you tell Jen, you went through the absolute darkness, you get a chance at the light again. We liked the fight. I remember when you sent it to me, I was like, dude, we can beat this guy. I'd seen him fight on King of the Cage a bunch of times. I knew that he had certain weapons about him, but I knew you could beat Chad. I felt very good about that fight offer for everybody we could have got. So we go out there. Let's take it from that point. We land out in Vegas. It's time to fucking do this thing again. We've already done it once. We're about to do it again. We did go in with a different sense in that time. It was kind of like, all right, it's time. Like, you're on the winning streak. You've gone through the ups and downs. Chad Johnson, you're just not enough, Chad. Like, all respect to you, but you're just not enough to stop.
Yeah, I remember not being nervous at all for that fight. I was ready. I was dialed in. I'm like, let's go. Yeah, so.
You dropped him with a knee out of the clinch. Well, you kneed him in the face, and then you hit him. You dropped him. You got on top. You TKO'd him.
Yep. It was a first round finish again.
So let's pick it up from there. You finish the guy. What are the emotions like the second time compared to the first time? What about when you go backstage and you sit down and Dana's going to decide on your contract again? Like, let's talk about right when you won the fight, what it was like, or leading up to it, if there's anything you want to say leading up to it. And then you're about to be judged again. Are you worthy to cross the line?
Yeah, no, I was really excited. I'm like, I did it again, first round. I felt like some type of way about it. I'm like, how are you going to deny me now? And then I remember after those feelings, those emotions going away a little bit, I'd sit in the back, be like, they're going to turn me down again. That is the, you know what I mean? That's my story, bro. They're going to tell me no again. They're going to put me on something else. But no, Dana had nothing but nice things to say. He said he liked the way I fight and all that stuff. He said yes, and that was awesome. Felt good. And then, we got to talk to him a little bit again, and, yeah, he seemed really, really happy for me and positive, and yeah.
Me, you, Tim, and Dana went outside. You thanked him. We took a picture together. You did that little press conference after. You're signed now.
Yeah.
Josh Parisian is an ultimate fighting championship athlete. You've made it to the UFC. You've made it to the pinnacle. When you go back home, what is that like? What was your first time you got an offer to go fight in the UFC? Like you're going to go fight it,
we got an offer for a first fight on the way back home on the plane.
I remember that.
Before we even left Vegas, we got an offer.
I didn't remember until you just said that. I was boarding the plane. I was about to sit down. I just got off the jet bridge, and an offer pops up on my phone. I'm like, what? 100%. Who was the first UFC offer? What? That was Parker.
Parker. Yep.
Parker Porter, and it was only what, like 4 or 5 weeks away, or 6 weeks away?
Let's see.
Maybe it was.
No,
Maybe it was
we
longer
got
than
a
that.
lot of time.
Okay, but yeah, you got the offer right away. We're gonna give you Parker Porter,
Yep.
UFC.
Yep.
Let's start to build up your story from that point.
Parker Porter fight, man, that was felt good about the fight, and he's doing really good too right now. He's only lost. Let me check him out. But yeah, no, felt good about that fight, and then something. I don't know if it was adrenaline dump or something happened or what it was, but like in between the rounds, I was like falling asleep. I couldn't even keep my eyes open.
And you guys set the record in that fight, didn't you?
At the time, it was the most punches thrown in a non title fight for a heavyweight. It was since broken. So we have the number 2 now, most punches ever thrown, which is, it's still crazy.
No, it was a war zone. I mean, you guys were just absolutely brawling it out. And the crazy part is you had an extreme adrenaline dump in the first round. Like when Josh is telling that story, you were sitting on the stool and you didn't even open your eyes at the entire end of the first round.
I didn't hear anything you said. I don't remember anything. I just felt like I just want to go to sleep. Imagine being in a cage fight in the UFC and just be like, oh, I just could go to sleep right now.
And then you fought 2 more rounds like that, and it was still a hell of a fight. He ended up winning a split decision.
It was. I think it was split.
I think it was split, but I don't know that for sure.
It was unanimous.
Oh, okay. It was 29-28 then. So he had won 2 rounds, and you had won a round.
Yeah. Yep. And he thought he lost the first one, but they gave him the first one. Is what it was.
Yeah. So then you take a loss to Parker in your first UFC fight. But you're in the UFC. You fought your heart out. You knew you had an adrenaline dump or something bizarre.
Yep.
And then we got an offer for Roki. Was he second?
Let me see. I believe it was. Yep, Roki Martinez. We won that fight. Split decision.
And another war zone.
Yep.
Another absolute banger back and forth. You're hitting him. He's hitting you.
Yeah, I threw a snap kick. It split him through the skin, through his fat to the bone under his chin. Didn't knock him out. I was amazed. And then next fight, Dontel Mays lost that fight. That was a fight that was the fight where I told you before the fight, I was like, man, I don't know what am I dealing with really bad nerves, and I was just like really nervous for that fight, and then
you were completely out of yourself for that fight. Can't really put my finger on why. Maybe just all the situations in your life. You got Eva there now. You're trying to balance this. You're trying to balance that. You're changing training routines. Whatever it is, but you were not yourself in the Dontel fight.
No, that was a tough one. But I lost that one. Came back. Alan Badeau,
the guy from France.
From France, yep. Won that fight, second round. It was a good back and forth fight, but we got a bonus, $50K bonus. I bought my truck, which is awesome.
Yeah, that was the huge one. I remember Danny called us when we were in the Uber or limo or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I put him on FaceTime and I said, hey, let him know. And he's like, you got the $50K bonus.
Yeah, that was so good, man.
You just started crying and celebrating. Was Danny Barry with us on that trip? That was the one that we ended up going to like PBR. And
yeah, that was Danny. Yep.
So you've gone, you took a loss, you won, you took a loss, you won, you beat Allen. And then that led us to our most recent fight? Or no,
nope,
there's
lost another one against Jamal Pogues. Was a fight that I was certain that I won. I still believe I won that fight.
Yeah, the Jamal Pogues fight was extremely close, and it was one of your better performances of your career.
Yeah,
against a true prospect. And for anyone that doesn't know Jamal, he had only taken 3 losses in his career, and all 3 losses to people that were completely unbeaten up to that point. They had never lost.
Yeah, he was a tough.
I mean, he was a absolute top prospect. Wrestled, grappling for like 13 years. Jiu-jitsu black belt under Joe Stevenson. Good striker, big athlete. I mean, Jamal, and you were right there. That was a razor close fight. Giving up one of those takedowns was probably the only reason that, they gave it to him.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we had our most recent fight.
I know, and that fight was up until I was the most underdog. Like, the odds were definitely not in my favor for betting odds, but it was my best performance yet. And that fight I had. What did I have? I had the terrible strep throat, and then at first I thought I was postnasal drip, and I was taking medication to dry up the phlegm, and that made me really dry. And then I ended up weighing into the fight like 6 pounds under what I weighed in at. So I already cut weight, and then I was 6 pounds under that, dehydrated, and still had a great performance.
Nobody knows that, but I remember you were battling like a terrible case of strep and stuff, and I'm like, dude, this guy's...
Could not sleep, got 3 hours sleep, 4 hours of sleep. The whole week was just like, the most I got was like the night we got there was 6 hours.
I remember when you were getting ready on fight day, I was like, this dude's operating at like 40%, and he's going to have to go fight this absolute top prospect. Like,
yeah.
And yet it was a highly competitive, extremely close fight.
Yeah, yep. Then I had the Walt Harris fight. We got there, showed up. He, shook his arm, shook his hand, everything. That night, the fight fell through because of
And let's put this
USADA.
into perspective. We game planned for Walt Harris for like 10 or 12 weeks, man, of all the different entries we wanted to do on him as a southpaw, what we knew he brought to the table, how we could beat this guy in the fight, what strategy we were going to employ. And we felt very good about that opportunity with Walt.
Yeah.
He fails for USADA, okay, devastating. You get a call, the fight's off. We're like 2 days out. They fly you back home.
Yeah.
And then we get your most recent fight.
Yep. And then then I lost this fight, and this guy came out completely different than we expected. And but man, this has been a great learning experience for this fight. I think the lunch that we just had where we talked about everything what the problem was and what needs to change and all that stuff. And I'm actually going to release a video of talking about where I think the issue was and all that. But a lot of it was just like not enough martial arts training. The only martial arts training I did was the game plan. So like I didn't do anything other than that. I was just working with Ty. We're doing the game plan. We're doing the game plan. So when I show up in that fight and the game plan doesn't happen, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I just freeze because I'm not doing enough martial arts training. I'm not doing enough just getting different looks. And so I'm only ready for the one thing that could happen. So we're going to make some changes, and we got some big ideas and stuff like that. So what we're going to do, and I'm feeling really good about the next one.
There was only one point in your career up to this point where you had lost 2 fights in a row in your entire career.
And then I went on a 6-fight win streak.
And you went on a 6-fight win streak, dominating people. Guess what? You lost 2 fights again, and you know what? Maybe that's just what you need for reflection. Maybe back and forth is just not enough weight on you.
Yeah.
When you lose 2 fights in a row, you really sit down and go, okay, where does the adjustment have to take place? That lunch we had the other day, I've been feeling like $1 million after it. And Ty and Tristan told me the same thing. They're like, listen, dude, if he makes those changes and those adjustments, Josh's a problem for everybody. And we know that, but it's just like, sometimes when the problem is not manifested itself to enough of a degree, too much shit slips under the radar.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like 2 losses in a row. It brings it to the light.
Yeah.
It becomes evident.
I needed it. I mean, imagine I'm glad to deal with it now so that I can continue my career and not deal with it later.
100%. So it's like you have 2 more fights in your contract or 1?
2
more fights in your contract. Let's say you go and you bang out 2 victories and you make these necessary adjustments. This might be the unfortunate down that you had to endure to break free to the level that you can achieve. You can have a number by your name.
Right.
You've known that.
100%.
If I can get myself to show up in that cage the way that I'm able to show up in here, I can get a number next to my name. I can hunt down those big money fights. I can hunt down the big names and put on performances that people are doubting that I'm possible, that I have the possibility to create. And I think it's like, as much as it sucks, it's that darkness that's built you your entire life.
Yeah. No, 100%. I feel like, I have built a career of perseverance and never quitting and keep pushing forward and not just doing the same thing, like actually being smart about it and thinking about it and being, introspective? Is that the word?
Yeah.
Like, really, really trying to figure out how we can be better and how we're going to do better. And this, like you said, this one really opened up my eyes to a lot of what needs to change. And I think I've done a lot of great things. And things just need to change a little bit. I'm not way off of beating all these guys. It's been just like a little bit of something. And I think we know there's something.
100%. I mean, with the Martin Budai fight, if you could just have mentally reset and got yourself back, he messaged you saying, like, dude, I had nothing left. I kind of emptied the tank in the first round. And I was hoping that you were going to get out of there.
He said, if I didn't beat you right there, you probably would have won because I had nothing left.
And we knew
that. And
that.
after the fight of 5 minutes, I'm like, I'm not even breathing hard. I'm not tired at all.
And we knew that. And then Jamal Pogue's fight. So close. I mean, each one of these fights, we're talking, you need a turn of the dial. And these little dial adjustments, next thing you know, now you go into a major winning streak. Again, the last time you took two defeats in your career, you went on a 6-fight winning streak and opened bigger doors than you could have ever imagined. We're back at that same point. I can't wait for the road upward.
Hell yeah.
So
Hell yeah.
just anything else you'd like to capture in this moment in time, a message to young people with a dream, a message to your family, a message to your daughter that, this will exist forever. And like we're capturing, your life story in all its detail and vulnerability, its strength, the up and the down, just anything you'd like to say, man. And then if not, we'll wrap this thing up.
One thing that I was thinking about in the first podcast that I wanted to talk about is, I think everybody deals with trauma, and I don't think that my trauma is any worse than this person's trauma or this person's trauma, and trauma is trauma. And I think that, I think a lot of reasons why I have done so well is because of when the trauma was introduced to me. So like when bad things were happening is because like when they were happening, I knew that they were bad. And I think it's a big difference in people's lives when trauma is happening and they don't know what's happening. What's happening is trauma, and these are things that shouldn't be happening. And I think that people tend to end up in worse positions or not have like the same attributes that I have. And I think that a lot of what happens is when the trauma happens, and I think that a lot of it is understanding if you like things that happen in your life might be trauma, and visiting that and trying to figure out, why are you the way you are and stuff like that. And if you actually diagnose those things and you can heal from them, then I think that could propel your life forward. And I was just fortunate enough to, when my trauma happened, and it happened at a time where I was already aware that these are wrong things. And I didn't have to. I've had to do a lot of reflecting and why am I this way, but not as much as some people need to do. And I think it's just always really trying to figure out why you do things, why you are the way you are, and that way you can fix them and be better.
Man, 100%. I think that was extremely well said. And I think it also alludes to the fact that you have to know the path. You have to know right and wrong. You have to know your beliefs fundamentally. You have to know what you think, on a large variety of the difficulties that you're going to face in life, because that is the metric that you can then measure that something is wrong. You can say, dude, this happened, but like, this isn't my fault. I didn't deserve this. This is not who I am. This is an evil or bad person putting this on me. This is you need to know who you are and what you believe and have that foundation to stand on. Because if you don't, you're going to the life's just going to beat the hell out of you. And like the way to fight back, like you said, is figuring your way back through those darknesses and recognizing that like, I'm not the person that is the result of that product. That trauma didn't happen because of who I am. It happened because life has trauma. Life has pain. Life has evil people. Life has damaging events. But that doesn't mean that you can't work through and heal those events and hopefully break those cycles for your children, for your family. To, like you said, going to therapy, going back through some of probably the most painful experiences of your life, but restructuring and framing things in a way that produces a better final result. And if that's what happens, it's actually a good thing. Although unfortunate that you had to go through it, imagine if you going through all those difficulties makes you 10 times the man and father and leader for your daughter and your family because you put it together the right way.
Yeah, that's just part of your story. I mean, it doesn't have to be a bad story, right?
No, 100%.
Might start bad, but it doesn't have to end bad.
You know what? That's what, like, my favorite book of all time, The Alchemist, it's like turning lead into gold. The experiences that might trouble you or might haunt you or might have tortured you for a period of time can be turned into gold if you can pull the right lessons from them. And that's what I feel like you're doing at this point in your life. And it's what you're doing evaluating your fighting. It's what you're doing evaluating you as a human being, evaluating you as a father, etc. You're trying to take all of this shit and make the final connected puzzle or picture be a beautiful one.
Yep.
Be one that matters.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Man, unbelievable part 2. Another hour and a half. We shot another full-length film. But man, it was incredible, and I hope that this leads to another massive winning streak, and then hopefully we're podcasting a year and a half from now talking about Josh. You got a letter 10 next to your name or a number 10 next to your name. You know you're going to be fighting a guy in the top 5, and you know you have the opportunity to make over $250,000 for your family in this. What is it feeling like? What were the changes like? You know, what is the newfound belief in yourself that you have? Like, and this is how we get there. So. It was an honor to sit with you again today, man, and you know, let's just keep moving forward.